So good afternoon, the afternoon is about giving Natasha an opportunity to share with us her research, which I understand is about a framework for evaluating his succession in the perspective of diversity, equity and inclusiveness, but also, I guess, in an era of digital transformation. And then for us to engage and see how we can, through our robust discussion, help her to sharpen her own thinking, which is the ultimate purpose, I think, of the engagement. So why don't we start by asking Natasha, before she tells us what she has chosen to study, to tell us why she has chosen to study. And maybe just a short introduction for those who don't know you, Natasha.
Okay, thank you everybody. I'm Natasha Prins. I've been in the ICT sector now for just over 20 years, I think 15 of which is in a leadership role. So I looked at some of the gaps that I've experienced from a leadership perspective in talent management and technology management and all of those nice concepts. And this is something that's very passionate to me. That's why the masterclass was so key, and the information that we received, then the dialogue there. Because getting the right people for the right position is really, really important. And we see it's detrimental to the success of the business long term. And I've been, like I said, in the ICT sector for such a long time that we don't succession plan. We choose perhaps our favorites, we choose leadership's favorites to take over the position, but not necessarily the right leadership acumen to take the business forward. So that's why this topic is passionate and close to me. I wanted to create a framework for succession planning using diversity, equity and inclusion and digital transformation in the ICT sector. So my research is about that. So when we're talking about the concept of AI and identity and whether AI is linked to identity. So AI, like any other tool, is supposed to enhance human capability. In my opinion, I don't feel AI can determine the core of an individual. However, I do feel our relationship with AI and our relationship with technology shows some aspects of our identity. So be it our age, cultural context, expertise, access to technology, those are all the things that I feel is linked to our identity and can influence the way we use in any algorithm, any tool for that matter. In terms of why I feel AI is significant in research, for a lot of the things we've just passed through and come, for those of you that were not there, data analytics, efficient data analytics, the ability to infer trends and patterns in large data sets. Also predictive analytics in technology is important, so that's where we use historical data to make predictions and forecast. Also another key point of AI is its ability to automate repetitive tasks. And I think so much to all of you esteemed colleagues here today, natural language processing is the ability to summarize data and articles and literature reviews and text data to in a matter of seconds. Having said that, data, like I said when I started, or AI, the usage of AI, like I said when I started, is more about enhancing human capabilities, but it still doesn't take the human aspect, the human quality like creativity and empathy and critically thinking, like we so much are required to do during our research. Just a few more points to give you a little bit of background further into my research. So the aim of my study is to explore the importance of succession planning, DE&I, and digital transformation for the continuity and sustainability of the ICT sector in South Africa. So the primary research objective is to understand the current landscape of succession planning, and I think the gaps and the challenges in existing strategies. The secondary research objective is to explore the role of DE&I and its impact on business success, and then to investigate the influence of digital transformation and core skill sets and competencies needed in future ICT leaders. I think my research will follow a constructivist research paradigm with a sequential exploratory typology from an abductive theoretical base. So thank you.
Thank you very much. So the floor is open.
Just a question from my side, because I mean you've got three very specialist areas in one research topic, and I think digitalization, face automation, and then succession planning to me is a research subject on its own if you're looking to design the IT company of the future. Because I think that's probably the biggest question at the table: how do we look 5-10 years from now? And then in that you bring AI. So I would like to know how you got, just by the way, I've been in IT for 25 years plus. So I would like to know how you got the golden thread between those, because it's all different research topics and different areas of specialization. Makes sense what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So can I interrupt there, Natasha? So could you maybe reflect to the question asked on the relevance of transdisciplinary research?
Okay, that's putting me on the spot.
That's okay. So in a sense, the question is suggesting that you are working in different disciplines. And I would be curious to know, would you want to respond by being transdisciplinary in your response or interdisciplinary?
Sure. Can I be interdisciplinary?
I think my question is easier.
Okay. Do you want to respond to one question, or do you want to hear one or two more comments, and then?
Let me hear one or two more comments.
So
Maybe
maybe
then
keep
other
track of
individuals are a bit kinder.
Okay. It's the one way to just confuse them, so they can feel quickly.
Natasha, thank you very much. My name is Marcel Hatton, and I really share your passion. I'm going back to my PhD dissertation was in succession planning that I also did several years ago. So part of the challenge in succession planning is the fact that most literature, which I'm sure you've come across, is not really focusing on succession, but rather on replacement of an individual, whether it's a recruitment strategy or whether it's a promotion strategy. And then suddenly when it gets to the executive or the senior management levels, now we call it succession. But it's nothing else than a model that we use just for recruitment or again promotion services. I would love to hear your definition and your research of what makes succession actually succession. Looking at the code, looking at the DNA transfer and all of that, however you want to define that, that actually differentiates succession from just a promotion or a recruitment process.
I like that question. So I'm trying to answer that.
No,
Okay,
you
okay.
have to answer all of them.
Okay,
It's not just the ones you like.
Okay.
So I'll take one more. Yes, sir.
My name is John.
Hello, John.
DaVinci Institute is premised on what is called TIPS framework. I'm sure you're aware of it. How does this link to your proposed research? And putting it all together, I think in line with that, what Ben was saying, the TIPS framework. I want you to talk to it in line with your proposed study.
So let's just refresh. So the first question was about bringing three very separate and unique, highly specialized disciplines into one study, which then gave rise to the transdisciplinarity versus multidisciplinarity dimension of it, and then what makes a succession, and not just a promotion or filling the vacancy. And then, to John's point, how do you pour all of that into a TIPS framework?
So let's start with the difficult ones. How I've incorporated succession planning, D&I, and digital transformation and linked that together. So from my understanding, like Marcel just pointed out, succession planning is not just putting a person in a position and promoting a person in a position. I find in my opinion is that in corporate South Africa, we promote particularly not on skill set, not incorporating DE&I, not incorporating people that have the skills to be promoted. So the three disciplines I want to link in the study, so it can come out that we are employing the right demographic. And when I mean the right demographic, I mean, like we just spoke now in the masterclass, the right individual for the right role, you know, in terms of where the company is going and the future of that company. So when I put those three big concepts together, that was my thinking. It's not just promoting a person into the position, but how do we groom the person, you know, and groom the right individual, incorporating D&I, as well as the right individual that shows that we unlock that full potential that we just spoke about. And because information is so key that we have it, and a person is with the experience and accolades and all of the things is really nice, but how do they use it in everyday life to benefit, obviously to fulfill themselves as well as the business in which they operate. So I hope that answers your question, why I've linked the three concepts together in terms of succession planning, D&I, and digital transformation, because I think sometimes we perhaps look for one, and we look for tick boxes when we recruit. Not necessarily, we don't like test and retest so we get the full package of the person, and adding some foresight into where that role is going and what is that person's career path for the future, etc., etc. So that's why I've added those three concepts. In terms of succession planning, you know, you said not a position, no, you said a promotion, not just...
Yeah, so there's more to succession than just being a promotion or a recruitment strategy.
Yes. I think if we see promises in an individual, if we understand the career path long term, we're able to work together with that individual, not just mentorship programs and those nice words that we use, but reverse mentorship. So I think reverse mentorship is really key, because then you get to understand what really drives people, how you motivate them, you know, what you can do on their journey to their life's journey, you know, and what you can do to be a part of that. So I'm a firm believer in not just giving the position to somebody, but also working and grooming that person long term for the success of that person as well as their contribution to the business. In terms of the TIPS managerial framework, so you know, technology, innovation, people, systems, it speaks to a more collaborative approach in how we develop people in business, how we develop ourselves as well. It's not just about developing other people. You can't develop other people if you don't develop yourself. So it speaks to using the different facets of business and developing yourself while also developing your team. So that's why, and would that be the technology that we're using, our access, our exposure, our learning where technology is and how it can benefit the business long term with the information that we generate. How are we innovating? Are we innovating? Is it just that we're employing people to, like we mentioned earlier, just come to the office and have an 8 to 5 job, you know, and just work with no foresight, with no thinking, with no growth, with no almost purpose? And I understand that that's a shaky topic. You cannot give somebody purpose. But you can work with somebody to realize the purpose. And obviously that ties into people, and obviously the systems you use that are integrated and talk to one another. Yes, we're talking about the concept now of AI and big data, but what does big data do for us, and analytics and predictive analytics and all the nice efficient analytics? If we don't apply it and use it to the advantage, of the business and the people in the business. So
This is far too relaxed, and you're being quite superficial. So can we go deeper? I don't think, by the way, you've quite responded to the trend. So we're going to come back to that. But I think succession is an out of date and out of fashion concept. How do you prepare someone for a future in roles and industries for which there is no precedence? What do you think you'll prepare me for? I think that the whole notion of succession has to be revisited. Quite apart from digital transformation and DEI, just the notion of succession planning. Why is that the biggest problem to solve in a future for which there is no precedence? In jobs that don't yet exist. In industries that don't yet exist. What are you preparing me for? To succeed what? To succeed who?
I think when I think of succession planning and why it's key for business, you cannot replace like for like, to your earlier point. You have to make sure that you are grooming 2 or 3 people in a particular role. Like, who is the top, say, Professor H.B. leaves. Is there somebody that can come into the business and take over his role?
But why do you want to take over his role?
Maybe my role is redundant.
His role is redundant.
I should not be replaced. I think that's part of the elephant in the room.
And that's understandable for some roles, but certain roles in the ICT sector is key
Like
for the
what?
progression
Like
of
coding?
the business.
Like what roles?
Like
Give me
a
one
sales
role.
manager role, a sales manager role, like
Why
enterprise
do we need
manager
sales
role.
managers on the future?
Each
What are they going to
person,
be selling?
products and services
What
and
products?
solutions. A whole list of products, so hardware, software, cybersecurity, all those things.
And you really think you can prepare someone?
I think you can.
Can I please add to that, and I like your example. So if we look at in the IT industry now, what we like to refer to developers, a few years from now will become a commodity. So if we're going to do succession planning for developers and that role will not exist 5 to 10 years from now, I think that's the question. Because if you look at what AI is doing and what it's doing, it's actually developers as a role is going to become a commodity. And that's why I like his question and I like your question. So what are we actually planning to succeed?
I think we're planning to succeed. My thinking is that we're planning to succeed the key roles in business that is not easily replaceable.
Like what? Give me one example.
For instance, you cannot automate all the processes. You cannot automate a sales role because people still want to deal with people. How much longer is that going to last for? Okay, that's a debatable question, but it's going to last for a lot longer than you said a developer's position that AI can replace. Because there's still that emotive, there's still that personalized connotation to what people want to deal with,
But
especially in the
why are you
ICT.
preparing him to be a sales director then?
Because we need a sales director to increase profit.
Okay, but let me come into that debate. So if you say you work from a constructivist point of view, as a paradigm, is it possible that you are trying to straddle a reality which you believe in, which is your prerogative, and which is not the definition wrong, but that you at the same time want to say, I want to embrace the notion of being a constructivist, an interpretivist. So I will allow an openness for different or an asymmetric perspective. So I think why this conversation is important and for the PhD journey is that maybe there's a reflection point of saying, so am I constructivist or am I actually positivist? So have I decided on what is the truth and I want my research to be aligned to that truth? Well, that's possible, but then you're positivist. But you stated, you introduced yourself and says, this is me, I'm a constructivist. So now I want to hear the constructivism. I want to hear that fluidity and that openness and say, maybe this is possible. Let me think of that. Because you don't need to answer it all.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of this session.
But I do suggest that we need to go 3 or 4 levels deeper if we want to be helpful this afternoon. And there's no point in being polite by
You was just talking because you can't see.
Just tapping me on the shoulder. Let me share with you a quick anecdote. So about 18 months ago, I gave some of my HR fraternity an assignment. I said to them, I want to transpose every single job in SARS along a 5-ladder career progression framework, starting from beginner, intermediate, proficient, generalist, advanced, and mastery. Everything. They struggled with it. They're still struggling with it, almost 2 years later. 2 months ago, I had a top 300 national breakaway with them. And amongst other things, I, in front of all of them, called up my AI agent and had a conversation with the AI agent. I said to the AI agent, I want to employ generally proficient tax auditors. Please give me a job description. And the AI wrote me the job description. I said, now can you compile a training module in order to train someone to become a generally proficient tax auditor, and then gave it to me. I then said, can you develop a performance contract so that when I employ a generally proficient tax auditor, I can use it as a framework for measuring their performance, and it produced it for me. I said, I want to be able to assess someone from the street to see whether there are, can you write me a machine learning code, algorithm, so that I can develop an assessment tool to see what's the gap between someone of the street and. So it wrote me the code. I said, can you improve the code by using large language models and deep learning? And it did that for me. So I went on, and then eventually I said, I would like to employ generally proficient auditors across these 5 ranges. Beginner, as I said to you earlier on, can you, for the South African, by the way, I also said, can you customize it for SARS? I said, can you now give me, using the South African remuneration context, a salary range for each of the 5 levels? And it gave me the salary range. I said, I'd like to go to the market and recruit for some, can you draft me an advert and an engagement letter? And I did all of that in 30 minutes. An assignment that the HR fraternity had been struggling with for almost 2 years. And I said, this is the future you face. You will become irrelevant if you don't embrace this. And what's your job if the AI can do this for me? So that's just one example of many examples, by the way, that I engage in every day. So what are we planning for? What are we preparing for? If a lot of the work, including the sales manager, can be done much better by an AI than a human being. I use that to demonstrate that if you want to contribute to this area, which I think is important, that you probably need to spend more time posing the question and knowing exactly what question you're trying to solve for, which is why I'm suggesting go 3 or 4 more layers deep. But before we ask for response, there's a...
I think you did touch through what I wanted to say. I am also from IT, probably 30 years in IT, and 12 of those in my senior management, and also running the IT company. So I wanted to understand the line of sight between succession planning and IE from what you said. Because now, for me, I can think that there is no need for succession planning simply because we can use a machine learning. Here, we can replace him from the science department, put a machine learning to learn about him, to learn about him, all his great attributes, all those things, the way of thinking, just imagine that we can, for analysis purposes, we can use BI. Then there is artificial intelligence or machine learning that can learn or start that big data that we're talking about. So, from your narrative, I wanted to understand now, how do we link it to AI? Because in my own thinking, right now we can do replace some of what the research normally used to do by a machine. So we are replacing it. So probably, on my own thinking, it's probably we can make use of the machine as a person, instead of us going back and hire someone, but we can put a machine to replace that person. That's my thinking. I'm just opposite what you're talking about. Thank you.
So if I can just pause, I want to take one or two more. How has this engagement impacted on the way you are thinking about your research question? That's the only question I have to answer. Differently from the way you came in.
Very Albright. So, listening, and I want to add on to what Prof mentioned. If you're following a constructivist approach, it means you want to build something new. So it's not about deconstructing the whole notion of succession planning as the conversation went, because there's no use for it anymore, and start rebuilding that with the 5R focus. That's my question.
Okay, good. Yes, sir.
I've been trying to listen to get an idea what is going on. So let me approach it from a research perspective. Even though I have read about so many people who are talking about artificial intelligence going to displace human beings in workplaces or whatever thing they're going to do or they're trying to do. Well, I listened recently when Elon Musk said that artificial intelligence will not be able, that's the danger there, but it will not be able to displace human beings entirely. Rather, it's going to augment human mind and human brain. That's what it's going to do. Even no matter how much it progresses, nothing is going to displace human being in whatever work we're going to do in this world. Okay? That's by the way. But I'm actually trying to look at your point there. You talk about diversity. The research perspective right now, not talking about artificial intelligence, its capacity and what it can do and what it cannot do. But when you're talking about diversity, you want to talk about diversity in your research. You talk about equity, gender, inclusivity. These issues are political issues. They are not necessarily intellectual. They're not necessarily intellectual. So how are you going to string them together intellectually in your PhD research so that you don't promote mediocrity just because you are talking about diversity, what do you call it, equity, that one you call all these things you're talking about.
Okay, good. Thank you. The question I have to you is, are they political issues or politicized issues? Prof.
Thank you, Prof. Natasha, I've got many questions for you, but the observation I have is I think you can take to a study if you link it to a higher order industry transformation or one of the challenges of the NDP, you can almost improve your study and elevate it, because I think the reality is people that identify trends look at the micro. And the micro, we look at the trends to kind of, synchronize that. And I think if you can do that as a comment, that would be very interesting. Questions, I'll give you a call.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, I think the problem we have so far in terms of our understanding the research journey is the fact that we didn't understand what are you solving. I think you need to frame the problem within the industry or your workplace that you're trying to solve. So upon framing that problem, then you can ask yourself certain questions yourself as an individual and as a manager, and then go on the reading journey. What else has been published on this subject? What are the opportunities? What are the gaps? And then on your domains, whether gender or diversity or AI or digital, all those things, just a by the way. But you can just, because you work on a doctoral research, you may need to specialize on one and exhaust it, dig it out, check it out, having an appreciation of what you're going to do, how you're going to position your study into a particular domain. Then you can go and for research design, whether whichever design you're going to do or use, and using those questions, then you will ask more questions. You will go in a quantitative study, and you will have your thesis. That's my contribution to you. Maybe you can just take whatever has been said, accept most of it, but you don't have to use everything, because you still need to focus your study on one particular problem that you looked at originally. Thank you.
Thanks, Natasha. So the one thing I want to underscore is this is your study, no one else's. But hopefully the session has helped shake up a little bit, destabilize sufficient creative tension.
Very much.
And so the question that I think you need to answer is, you came in here framing your thesis in a particular way. What has happened to the way of thinking in the last 40 minutes or so? Do you want to share that with us?
Yeah, I think it's definitely opened my mind. So thank you everybody for your insights. It's the whole process. I think the PhD is not just a document at the end of the day. It's the growth that you do in the process. As a person, firstly, before research, and into all the different facets of your life. So I think the last 2 hours that I've been here has really helped me to open my mind, to the possibility of what is not, and how does it change, the reality in which I operate in. So I want to thank you for your time, thank you for your insight, and thank you for taking the time to come and listen to me.
Well, thank you for putting yourself under such public
scrutiny.
But I think that's part of this process, like ultimately to defend your thinking. I just come from Athens, where some of the greatest thinkers have come from. And it was a public square conversation that tested and improved their thinking. But thank you.
And then, if I can just add, there are a number of PhDs in this audience, as there always is, and I would like them to reach out to you, all you guys. And that's the whole part. Another dimension of this is that you've got other people that want to journey in sharpening your pencil and getting your argument logically articulate. So let's reach out and reach out to them.
Thank you, because I don't think it's a journey that it's just between you and your supervisor.
No,
this is a relative sort of process. That's why I appreciate this.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Natasha.